What's good, guys? Welcome back to Small Talk on Head-to-Head Fantasy Basketball. And we're back at you. We're back at it with you guys with reacting to your trades. And of course, I'm with Anson. What's good, my boy?
What's good, guys? Today, we're just going to be breaking down some of the trades that have been sent to us in our Discord community. These are just trades that have been sent out the past couple of days. You guys seem to really enjoy these type of videos. And if you've seen our previous trade videos, and as you'll notice today, there's going to be certain players that are kind of being offered a lot in the market. So these are players that are likely being offered maybe in your leagues as well. So if these players are offered in your leagues, Alan and I will be kind of breaking down what we think of those players moving forward and kind of their trade value as of now.
Yeah, sounds good. Let's get started with our first trade. Let me just look at this real quick. So we got Damian Lillard, Marcus Smart for Kobe White and Kyle Kuzma. Oh, I remember this one. I remember this one. I responded to this one. Um, so yeah, so the guy was offered Dame, or like he was offered, they're like, yo, give me Dame Marcus Smart, I'll give you Kobe White and Kyle Kuzma. And I was like, bro, you getting robbed, my boy. You getting straight up robbed. So I was like, don't do the deal. Keep Dame and Marcus Smart. Marcus Smart will probably come back in like 3 weeks. Which means that if you're in a good position for playoffs, I think that should be a good sign. The only scary thing about Marcus Smart is that they might shut him down for the rest of the season for a higher draft pick. Which if they do that, then it's okay. You just throw Marcus Smart, grab somebody else. But yeah, as of right now, Kobe White, Kyle Kuzma. Kobe White is, in my opinion, he has these like really, really good stretch of games. Potentially even a sell high for Kobe White. But obviously, if the trade deadline comes up in about like a week or so, if they do trade Levine and DeRozan, I think Kobe White will get the most usage. But we'll see how he responds if those trades do happen, and how he looks at it as a number one option. But Kyle Kuzma, I think he's not bad. He's like what, 36, 37 average. Um, Good position, power forward, but in my opinion, I think Kyle Kuzma's ceiling is probably like what, 42, 41 fantasy points a game. I just don't think both of them are even equal to what Dame and Marcus Smart can provide. I mean, if you throw Marcus Smart out and you just grab somebody else from the free agency, it gives you like 25 fantasy points. Plus Dame that averages like 44, 45 fantasy points. Like I think that's still better than Kobe White and Kyle Kuzma, in my opinion. Yeah, and you get a streaming spot, right? But that's just my opinion.
Yeah, I definitely favor the Lillard and Marcus Smart. Now, if you're playing in a really deep league, maybe 14 team league, I could kind of understand balancing out and maybe going Kobe White and Kuzma just because Smart is out, and then the player that you're picking up from free agency likely averages less than 20 fantasy points per game, especially if you're playing in those deeper leagues. But if you're playing in 12 man or less, then definitely Lillard and Smart seems like pretty much the just the most logical decision. Memphis is super shorthanded, not just Smart, but everyone's out. So when Smart comes back, he'll be really good. And without John Moran as well, Smart should be close to equal to what Kobe White is with Zach Levine. So if you kind of look at it that way, then if you just eliminate Kobe White and Marcus Smart, in 3 weeks' time, they'll be kind of equal to each other. Zach Levine should come back. Marcus Smart should come back and produce similarly. Then you're really looking at Kyle Kuzma for Damian Lillard. And I mean, I would just take Lillard.
Yeah, I think that's like a really quick no-brainer. But yeah, let's move on to the next trade. So we got LeBron James for DeJounte Murray and Jabari Smith. And as of right now, we know DeJounte is on the trading block, but we don't know even if he is going to be traded, right? And if he is, where is he going to go? And that will affect his fantasy value. And as of right now, LeBron was in our buy low video the other time, and I think LeBron is still relatively like really as a good like a really strong and consistent candidate for fantasy points. The only issue is that he has been picking up some injuries lately, so I do understand if you want to move him, but I think you can get a way better trade um over for just DeJounte and Jabari, in my opinion. I think Jabari is not going to be this good. DeJounte, I think he was really good because Trey was out from like 2 or 3 games. So it just depends how he plays out. But yeah, in this trade, I think you just get LeBron, keep LeBron, and try to get for better trades, in my opinion.
Yeah, if you look at DeJounte's best games on his game log, they're games without Trey Young, like Alan said. So DeJounte's value is a little bit skewed. LeBron's value, he was a buy low candidate. He just had a big game against the Warriors. But overall, he is pretty undervalued as of right now. LeBron is about a 50 fantasy point per game average. So I would definitely favor LeBron plus a either a free agency pickup or using it as a streaming spot rather than having DeJounte. And then Jabari Smith is a little bit hard to evaluate. With Houston kind of dealing with injuries on their four spot, they've been kind of just running Jabari Smith close to 40 minutes per game. I know he just came back and because Tari Eason is out and some other of their forwards are out, he's able to play a lot of minutes. So he did have a really good game against the Lakers today. And it's just hard to evaluate Jabari Smith because he's kind of streaky and he's been out for a while. But the games that he has been back, he's looked good. But you just have to remember that um, I just wouldn't count on how consistent it is.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there. There's a lot of sell high candidates that are available, and you don't want to be one giving LeBron for a sell high candidate, and then they return and they're just giving you bad numbers or like horrible numbers. So just be aware, and also like don't just be too preempted to jump on a trade just because someone offered it to you. Try to look around, offer them, hey, what do you want for LeBron? I'm trying to trade LeBron, and then see, compare offers if you really want, and then see which one fits best for you, and then you can try to trade him. Or if no one's giving you a good offer, LeBron, just keep LeBron. Nothing wrong with that. But let's move on. We got DeJounte Murray and Kyle Kuzma, similar names again, for Jaylen Brown and Zach LaVine. For this one's a little bit more interesting. I think this one's a little bit more close, I would say, or more fair. Jaylen Brown has been really, really good. I think he is potentially a sell high candidate, in my opinion. DeJounte obviously been very, very good. Kyle Kuzma has kind of been hooping. Zach LaVine's been injured, in and out of injuries. He might be getting traded. And like I said, depends on where he's going to get traded. That'll affect his fantasy value. But I wouldn't be surprised if Zach LaVine went on a contending team or somewhat of a contending team. Just, it just makes more sense for him to go there. So that would actually hurt his fantasy a little bit, in my opinion. But yeah, and for this one, DeJounte, Kyle Kuzma, Brown, and Levine, I'm going to lean towards Murray and Kuzma. I think Kuzma has a higher ceiling. And if DeJounte, stays, we already know what he can do, and he's very healthy. Jaylen Brown, in my opinion, is a sell high. I think he could probably do what like Kuzma does, or maybe a little bit better. And Zach LaVine is just not as good as DeJounte. So I think for this one, I'll lean towards DeJounte and Kyle Kuzma.
Yeah, same thing here. I think it's really close. I am leaning towards DeJounte and Kyle Kuzma. Jaylen Brown just hasn't been that good, even with his recent spike in numbers as a sell high candidate. He's still only averaging 37. Before these strings of games, he was averaging 35, 36. So he just isn't as good. From a fantasy standpoint, he might be the worst fantasy producer out of these four players. And with Zach Levine, he also hasn't been as good. Um, and he's been dealing with a lot of injuries. It just seems like he's been dealing with a lot of lingering injuries. So I wouldn't really trust rostering Zach Levine. I would rather just have two healthier guys in DeJounte Murray and Kyle Kuzma. It's just really hard to evaluate this trade, mainly because even though I'm favoring the left side, the right side, Zach Levine and Jaylen Brown, they're much better players. And with so much trade rumors going on, we don't really know where these players will what kind of situation these players will be in. So if you want to favor the better players, hoping that they'll be in a better situation, then you could maybe take the right. But just judging off what we're seeing right now from these players, I will favor the left.
Yeah, it's a very, very close trade, but I agree with Anson, obviously. Left side for me as well. Let's move on to our next trade. We got Fox for Anthony and Jaren. This one's a little bit pretty interesting too. So in this case, you're just basically getting Fox plus a free agency player, whatever your choice. Let's say the average 25 fantasy points, very average. So Fox gives what about 45 to 50 fantasy points depending on range. I know he's also had some really, really bad games. I'm not gonna, just pretend that I didn't see those bad games. So it just really depends. on what you favor right now. Simons has potential to get a boost if they do trade some players from Portland, which is, obviously rumored they're going to trade some of their guards. So that gives Anthony some more time, more shots, more touches, etc. Jaren Jackson, sell like not sell high. He's been playing pretty well as the number one option and probably is the only option of scoring there, but he's doing pretty good. So Anthony, potential higher ceiling, Jaren Jackson, pretty good. And I just want to see what happens. Like if they do shut down, Marcus Smart or Desmond Bain, Jaren Jackson will just be a fantasy monster. But if Jaren also somehow gets injured, they might just shut everyone down and then they just tank for like playoffs. But yeah, as of right now, for this one, I kind of want to lean towards Anthony and Jaren Jackson. It's a little more safe in my opinion. Fox is a great player, don't get me wrong. It just really depends on what you need on your team. So in my opinion, I think I'm gonna lean toward Anthony and Jaren.
Yeah, this trade is really, really close. I think the point that you brought up towards the end about players getting shut down is what kind of leans me towards Fox because I can kind of see both Anthony and Jaren Jackson Jr. potentially getting shut down since they're just on non-competitive teams. But Anthony definitely has a really high ceiling, like you mentioned. If one of those Portland guys, most likely Brogdon or Grant, if one of those guys leaves the team, kind of frees up more shot volume for Anthony Simons, and he could really put up a lot of fantasy point. We've seen him put up 45 fantasy point per game when Dame was out and it was just Anthony. So Anthony has a really high ceiling. Jaren, now that basically everyone's out, he has a really high ceiling. And Fox is more of a safer play just because we've kind of seen Fox produce all year long and all last year as well. So Fox is more of a safer play. I would favor Fox mainly just for fantasy playoffs if Anthony and Jaren Jackson do get shut down.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I think Sacramento has a really, really good playoff schedule. So if you do get Fox, that would be ideal. But yeah, Anthony Jaren, it's just really up to you. I think it's a coin toss, right? If you want to take the gamble with Anthony and Jaren, that could play out well for you. But if they do end up shutting down, you might, hurting yourself a little bit more because you do need to start cycling players that are not obviously as good. So like I said, it just depends. But let's move on. We got Jokic for Trey Young and Miles Bridges. Okay, okay. This is interesting. This is interesting. But I think very, very quickly, just I'm leaning already to lean towards Jokic. Don't get me wrong, Trey and Miles Bridges are really, really good. Um, it just really depends. I think Miles Bridges has been playing really well, especially when LaMelo was out. Now LaMelo's back. He's still doing pretty good, but because since LaMelo is, sitting and resting his ankle, Trae Young's been very, very good as well. But I think if Jokic averages what about 60, Trae Young averages about what 48, around 48. Miles Bridges averages around what 37, about almost 40. So you just do Jokic plus around 25. It's a very even trade, but Jokic has those games where he can go for 70, 80, 100 point fantasy points games. And if you have him with a bunch of like a just bunch of streamers that you guys get, I think it'll lean towards Jokic a lot more because Jokic, even though he's very consistent, he doesn't really have a low floor. Like his floor is still like 45 fantasy points. Like he does a lot. He grabs rebounds, grabs assists, right? Let's just say he does commit a little bit more turnovers. I mean, he still has his scoring, he still does everything, which means that, Jokic will still be very, very efficient. We've seen Trae Young go on really bad shooting streaks, and that could hurt you guys. So in order for more consistency, I'm leaning towards Jokic plus whoever I grab on a free agency. That's just my pick.
Yeah, normally I try to side towards the better player, and in this case, or in usually in these cases, I would value a top five player like Jokic or Giannis and Embiid. If you could do two good players for those players, usually I would definitely recommend you do that. However, in this scenario, I'm really high on Miles Bridges. Miles Bridges he's been pretty good all year, but since they've traded Terry Rozier away, since Rozier has not been in the lineup, Miles Bridges has been producing 50 fantasy points per game the last two games. So Miles Bridges looks really good. It doesn't I think as a second option, with Lamelo being mostly a facilitator, Miles Bridges is really benefiting, and I feel like he could honestly keep up, maybe averaging 45 fantasy points per game. Trae Young has been amazing, pretty much all year, and he's only 10 fantasy points shy from what Jokic has been averaging, or about 10, give or take. I know Jokic hasn't been performing like the Jokic we've seen the past couple years, but I just think the difference between Jokic and Trae Young, um, I don't think it's I don't think it's as big as the production from Miles Bridges, especially that Rozier's gone.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. Totally forgot about the Rozier trade. Yeah, I just put up Miles Bridges numbers. Yeah, he looks really, really good. LaMelo has been out the last two games, so we'll have to see how he adjusts or how everything settles down. I know there's everyone in Charlotte's been getting really, really good numbers. I know PJ Washington went off for a 40-point game. So it just really depends. But yeah, I definitely favor Jokic. Obviously, I think you said you favor Trae Young and Miles Bridges, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. All right, let's move on from this trade. We got Van Vliet and Butler for Tatum and Asar. Okay, man. Asar Thompson. Okay, this has to be a joke, right? Like, I don't know if he's getting. Let me just pull the numbers up really quick. But in my opinion, right now, I think Jimmy Butler and Fred Van Vliet. Butler's been hooping recently. Like, he's been putting up some really, really good numbers. Let me pull up Asar's number really, really quick, just so I can kind of see how he's been doing. So yeah, he's been getting like 20 minutes, like low. He only had one game, he broke like 27 minutes the last four games. So yeah, Sar Thompson's like a free agency player. So really, you're getting Jason Tatum plus maybe some random player on the free agency for Van Vliet and Butler. I think Van Vliet can still keep his production. I think Van Vliet has these games where he does really, really well, averaging like 45, 50. And he has these slower games where he averages 35, 34, which is still really, really good. Butler has also been, one of those players that has a really, really slow start. These are like the last two games. I feel like our last two, three games is where we're starting to really see Butler do well. He's averaging like 50 fantasy points the last three games, which is really, really good. But it just, like I said, it just really depends if he can keep that, keep that up. I know Rozier, Hero, Bam is there, so we'll have to see how that affects his numbers. But yeah, as of right now, in my opinion, I think I'm favoring Van Vliet and Butler over Tatum. Tatum's been good, but him sharing the ball, we saw his usage, obviously drop. Is just, I think Van Vliet Butler for me is still the way to go.
I agree with you. I don't think Tatum is as good this year, as he was last year. There's just too much going on in Boston, and even with players coming in and out of the lineup, Tatum is still only averaging 45 fantasy points per game, as opposed to close to 50 last year. And Van Vliet, in Houston, he's looking really good. He's averaging 42.5. So that's only two fantasy points off of Tatum. So if you take two fantasy points off of Tatum versus Jimmy Butler and Asar Thompson, then I think the clear choice is Jimmy Butler. Asar Thompson looked pretty good in the beginning of the year. However, um, Detroit, they're really just trying to win. Usually rebuilding teams, they don't really care about winning and they kind of play their rookies. However, Detroit has been so bad and such an embarrassment that they don't want to have the worst record of all time. So they can't even really develop their players because it's just really bad over there in Detroit, and they're trying to show the fans something. So they're kind of playing a lot of their veterans as opposed to giving the younger guys minutes. So like Bogdanovich and Alex Burks, a lot of those veterans are starting to get minutes over some of these rookies. So it's just not looking too good for the younger guys or the developing guys in Detroit. I don't think Asar Thompson's minutes are going to be brought back up to what we saw in the beginning of the season. And Jimmy Butler, I know he's been struggling all season, but since he's came back, the last couple games he's been doing really good. He's kind of looked like himself in the past couple years. We know Jimmy Butler could average 50 fantasy points per game. It's just the injury concerns, but since he's came back, he looked really good. So definitely favor Van Vliet and Butler.
Yeah, I think this was a very, very it's more of the easier trades. I know a lot of people can be like, "Oh my God, you're getting Tatum." It's just you have to understand the circumstances, right? You're getting Van Vliet and Butler for Tatum, basically, because Asar is, just throw him in the trash can. But no offense to Asar. Just, yeah, I definitely understand what you said there. Where Detroit, they can't really develop their players when they're literally going like 0 and 20. All right. Like it's just very difficult to develop your players. But yeah, let's move on. Oh, never mind. I think that's the end of the trade. Actually, I thought that we had one more, but yeah, that was the end of the trades, right? Like Anson said, if you guys agree or disagree, drop it down in the comments below. And if you guys want to join our Discord, ask us for your opinion on your trade, or someone's offering you a trade, or you're trying to offer somebody else a trade. All are welcome in our Discord. Just try to be friendly. Everyone has their own opinions. So yeah, just be considerate to each other.
Yeah, appreciate you guys for watching. If you guys have any other trade ideas, or if you guys want to see any other content, you have an idea about, hey, you guys should start doing this, we're welcome to it. So just drop it in the comments. And like Alan said, if you haven't joined our Discord, the link is in our description. So go join our Discord. We have a pretty friendly community there. Just talk about hoops.
Yeah, sounds good. We'll see you guys on our next video. Peace. Take care, you guys.